Again, let me say, Happy Mother's Day to all of you who are mothers, to all of you who have had mothers in your life or other women in your life who have been mothers to you. It's funny, Mother's Day is such a big occasion for us and in America. I'm told that in World War II, American soldiers said they were fighting for mom and apple pie, which then gave rise to the phrase, as American as motherhood and apple pie. We love motherhood. So I was pretty surprised when I went to Yale Divinity School and learned that Mother's Day is not a high holy day in the church. But these were learned people, these professors, mostly men, and I figured they knew what they were talking about, and so, being young and wanting to do the right thing, I dutifully followed through, and I got ordained and got assigned to my first church, and I made sure we never celebrated Mother's Day, because it is not a high holy day. Besides that, I was a strong, independent young woman living in this strange part of the country called New England, far, far away from my parents, who were still living in Alaska at the time. And I was doing just fine on my own, me and my wonderful husband, Mike, working hard on our own, so independent. Who needs your mother? Then our daughter, Beth, came along. And Mike and I were really excited about this. And the two churches we were serving were very excited about this. We were all very excited. But then, at the hospital, things went terribly wrong during labor. Terribly wrong. But don't worry, this story has a happy ending. We were in the labor and delivery room. Contractions were coming right along. The doctors, in their wisdom, much to my horror, decided to attach a heart monitor to the baby's head. My precious baby's skull with a wound in it. But oh well. And as we waited there, the doctors and nurses went off for a while. I had a wonderful midwife. They went out in the hallway to talk about whatever they do there, and Mike and I were alone in the room and listening to this heart monitor, and all of a sudden, the heart monitor began to slow down, and the baby's heartbeat dramatically slowed down. So Mike went running into the hallway to call the doctor in. They came rushing in, had me doing somersaults on the table, which is not an easy thing to do, and then decided that it was time for an emergency C-section. So they raced me into an operating room, leaving Mike behind in the labor and delivery room. Behind my head, the anesthesiologist said, "Do you give us permission to do whatever we need to do?" And I said, "Yes." But in my head, I thought, well, duh! I came here for my baby. I'll just get the baby. And then I went out. They got the baby out. My baby didn't have a heartbeat or breathe for the first 14 minutes of her life. If you know anything about APGAR scores, her scores were 0, 0, 0. That's not good. Fortunately, thanks to that anonymous anesthesiologist behind my head, I was completely oblivious. But my poor husband was fully conscious. He was waiting outside. He saw the neonatal team come racing out of the operating room with a very pasty baby. Then the doctor came out and said to Mike, "I'm so sorry." And Mike said, "But I just saw the baby go by. She didn't look that good, but I think she was alive. Are you telling me my wife has died?" Poor Mike was there in the hallway, thinking that his wife had died on the table and his baby was about to die. I remember coming out of the anesthesia. Everything around me was dark, but I could hear somebody talking nearby. I asked, "How's the baby?" And out of the darkness, this woman's voice said, very hesitantly, "Well, we don't know." And then I lost it. The baby's fine. The baby's living in New York City, living the dream. But I didn't know she would do that for the first year of her life. She's all right. But I learned that day that parenthood is hard. It's hard, right from the start, in my case. And I found myself counting the days until our parents could come visit us. My mother was a first grade teacher, and the principal of her school would not allow any teachers to leave during the first month of school in September, even if their daughter was in crisis. So I counted the days until my dad could fly in. He got in and came to the neonatal unit and held that baby Beth. It was so reassuring to have him there with us. Then he had to leave, so I counted the days again until my in-laws could get there. And I remember how Dorothy would just walk around at home with baby Beth and say, "Sometimes babies just need to cry." And I thought, I don't think that's true, but you seem so calm about it, it must be okay. And it wasn't until December, Christmas vacation, that my mom was finally able to come visit us. Mom and Dad came together this time. Dad told me later that on the airplane heading over, halfway across the country, suddenly my mother just burst into tears because she was feeling how hard it was too, of course. And poor Dad was worried as well, but he felt even funnier when he said all the flight attendants looked at him kind of funny, like, "What have you done to that poor woman?" But wow, it was wonderful to have my mom with me. My mom raised 4 babies. She knew what she was doing. But that's when I realized, when I had to wait and wait so longingly for my parents to come visit, and when I found myself on the phone calling Mom all the time, that's when I realized, this parenthood thing, it's hard. It's hard. And you can have a baby, and your baby will keep calling you decades later, looking for help. It's tough. The responsibilities just continue for decades. And I don't know why, but we are pretty judgmental when it comes to motherhood. We're so quick to judge what mothers do, and even us moms are pretty hard on ourselves at times. I remember when baby Beth was much older, she was 10 years old, and she came home from school and she said, "Mom, the teacher's assigned this writing prompt, and I don't know what the topic's gonna be, and I don't know how I'm gonna do this." And I thought, oh no, I don't know what to do about this either. So I wrote her a story. I wrote her a story called "A Mother Like Yours." I won't read the whole thing to you now. You can read it later if you want. But I'd said to her, Beth, it doesn't matter what the topic is that the teacher assigns. I mean, you could write an essay about, I don't know, your school lunch. And she said, "Oh, Mom, that's impossible." Well, let me tell you, it's not. I wrote my baby an essay, an expository essay with specific details, personal experiences, and sensory details about the lame lunch I had packed for her that morning. But I don't know, is that the right thing to do? Is that what moms are supposed to do when their daughters are worried sick about a writing prompt? Other mothers take their kids shopping. Other mothers make beautiful things in the kitchen with their kids. I don't know. I wrote her a story. But it's hard. It's not always clear what to do. While I was on vacation in Florida, I saw a mom walking across the way, and trailing behind her was a little toddler sobbing, trying to keep up. And I wanted to swoop in there and pick up that little baby and comfort him and reassure him that everything was all right. But I also knew that that probably wouldn't be reassuring. Strangers are not supposed to swoop in and pick up small children. I know some of us moms really make a muddle of it. Sometimes we really, really screw up. Some moms are wrestling with other things that just makes motherhood even harder. Sometimes it's things like addiction. Sometimes it's other things. Now, I don't know if in the Bible story that Jim read for us about the woman accused of adultery, I don't know if she was a mother. But I do know that a lot of people were condemning her and judging her. It's also interesting that there must have been a man involved, but nobody said anything about him. That's a story for another day. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery, and making her stand before all of them, they said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the very act of committing adultery. Now in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say?" Jesus said to them, "Let anyone among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." When they heard it, they went away, one by one, beginning with the elders. And Jesus was left alone with the woman standing before him. Jesus said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" She said, "No one, sir." And Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go your way, and from now on do not sin again." Jesus didn't judge her. Jesus didn't condemn her. He simply encouraged her not to do it anymore and to go on her way. The Bible also gives us a story of Tabitha and Dorcas and many other women. Tabitha, we're told, was very devoted to good works and acts of charity. And she made, we're also told, tunics and clothing. She was a good woman. And then she died. The story reminds me now of a funeral I went to several years ago now. And everybody at the funeral showed up wearing colorful ties because the woman who had died loved to sew. And she had made more ties than anybody had realized, but everybody showed up wearing them that morning. Our prayer shawls, which we will dedicate later in this service, also surround people with love, not with judgment, but with love and encouragement. Moms, I think, need encouragement, not judgment. Moms need, I think, breakfast in bed and chocolate. Moms need good clothing sales with great deals so they can clothe themselves and their families. Moms need a place to live where they are cared for and loved so that they can wrestle with all the things going on in their lives. Moms don't need judgment. We need encouragement. On tough days, and tough days do come along more frequently than we'd like, it's good to know that God raised Jesus up on Easter morning. And God, like Peter did with Tabitha, God will also raise us up, not only at the second coming of Christ, but on just ordinary days, days when we find ourselves struggling. Peter reached out his hand and raised Tabitha up. The doctors raised up my half-dead baby, actually my totally dead baby, and brought her back to life. Sometimes we ourselves may be half dead with exhaustion or worry. Sometimes we all need a helping hand. And God reaches out to us, offering us that hand. God will raise us up. Thanks be to God. Amen.